all, it's my very enjoyable job to introduce Sandi Toksvig.
But thank you, Dame Carol, for giving us this opportunity. This is a fantastic idea, isn't it, for the 60th anniversary of Women of the Year. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with this organisation, it is an organisation I've been associated with for a very long time, and practically the mascot of the organisation. In fact, I think this year we're producing a key ring in actual size to celebrate. It was set up in 1955 by the award-winning journalist and serial campaigner Tony Lothian. She was a force of nature, and it was to recognise and celebrate the amazing achievements of women. And Tony's vision, think about 1955, was way ahead of her time. And what we do is we gather women from every walk of life. We have everything from shepherdesses to nuclear scientists. It is the most astonishing thing. And 60 years on, it is the only event that has that kind of spread in terms of the women that it recognises. It's so wonderful that Alison Wolf is here to speak to us today and give us a chance to debate with our distinguished panel, Sue Owen and Eve Pollard, my friend Eve. So thank you for your generosity and for your friendship, and indeed for the new friendships which are already being forged here today, which I've thoroughly enjoyed myself. I look forward to a great afternoon's debate, and I hope it's going to be the start of a wonderful relationship that goes on into the future. Thank you very much.
I would like to say a little bit about why I wrote it, and about, in a sense, how interesting it is that I ever did it. Because I never intended to write about women when I left university. I never intended to work on women. I work on the labour market, I work on higher education and training. And in a sense, the fact that for much of my career, and I think this will probably be true for many other people here, that I didn't really think that much about what it was to be a woman, about how the lives of women were changing very much, was something which defined my generation, that we were born late enough that while it was not true that we could do everything or have everything, there were a huge number of things and a huge number of barriers which would have automatically faced any previous generation of women and did not face, I think, really people in this room, that we are the lucky ones. We started on the right side of this amazing change which has taken place in human societies. And it is an amazing change because it is a change which is completely different from any other period of human history. That the fact that this room is full of people like us is something that simply could not have happened even in the early days of Newnham, when essentially you got a degree and you taught, because teaching was what you did. And so when I got talked into writing this by a friend of mine, David Goodhart, who at that time was editor of Prospect, I kept coming up against things and going, oh my goodness, you mean that was really the case in 1920/30/40/50/, and had this tremendous sensation of being on the other side. And that's what I mean about this is a seismic change. And it's something where if, as does happen to one sometimes, one ends up in a meeting in which one is the only woman, at least in my world, everybody goes, oh, did you notice that? And they wouldn't have done. So this is now a vanished world. Even in Singapore, it is a vanished world. Perhaps not in Saudi, but even in Saudi, the majority of undergraduates are female. So it's a vanished world. And one of the things about it is that at the top, and I want to emphasize at the top, and by the top I don't mean the 0.0001%, I mean us. At the top, men and women study together, and they work together, and they live together. Are we in steady state, or are there more huge social changes coming? What I've tried to do in the book and tried to sketch out here is to say that one of the things that's happened as a result of female emancipation, as a result of there being all these people who are out there as successful professionals, successful business people, and who are also female, is that all sorts of things about our social structures have changed. One of the things that's changed is these new divides, but all sorts of other things have changed. Is there a lot more to come from the female revolution, or are we kind of advancing towards steady state, though, we still need, still not many judges up there, not many, but are we sort of over that? Listen, it's hard to know. My own sense is that this particular revolution has done most of its, whatever it is, revolutionising, that there are bits that will still continue, bits that will go a bit further. But just as 30 years ago, I don't think anybody would, for example, have predicted the huge increase, the huge levels of breakdown in nuclear families, the huge rises in children born out of marriage, would not have predicted that. They also wouldn't have predicted the implosion of what people used to call wage earner jobs in which men could support a family without being graduates. I think the one thing one knows is that there is something coming up there that we've none of us noticed yet, which will have a huge impact. Will it have good or bad implications for educated women? I honestly don't know, but I think it will be very, very, very hard to put us back into the kitchen. So thank you very much, everyone.
Now, we are, as busy women all, time pressed, but there is so much to get into as a result. Fascinating points raised by Professor Wolf. And this idea, I suppose the leaping off point, have we reached steady state? What is coming up on the rails that we need to be aware of? Eve, what was your first observations on what you heard from Professor?
Well, first of all, let me just tell you I enjoyed your book very much, and lots of information. Every book that's written about the success of women is great because, frankly, although you say we're going up and being more successful, the men have realised that we've parked our tanks on their lawns and they don't like it one bit. Certainly not in my old profession or my current profession. Secondly, I think there is an enormous change about to happen. And I think that it's not just about being alpha, going to university and education, all of which I take on board. It's about having some power, some self-respect, some information to your own life. You can choose to go away. You can choose to do something. You can choose to do all sorts. Look at Sandi, who's done a million different things in her life and many columns on days when I imagine she woke up and thought, oh my God, it's Good Housekeeping Day today. But that was a choice. It was a choice you made because you wanted to earn money for various things. I think what will happen is all of the women who are working today will raise children who want to work because they've seen the other side.
And it's a good leaping off point to go to Sue, actually, because one of your key aims in your extraordinary position in the civil service is to help women to navigate careers and to find that path if they choose to take it. What are your observations on what you've heard?
I mean, I agree with, it's hard to disagree with a lot of what Alison says, but personally, my observation from my own career is that women are still not fulfilling their potential, whether they are educated or not. And, you know, even amongst well-educated women, are they on an equal platform? I don't think they are necessarily yet. You know, 53% of the civil service is women. If you did that pie chart, you'd have more women than men in the civil service as a whole. But in the senior jobs, it's 38%, and in the very top, the permanent secretaries, there are 8 out of 30, depending on how you define it. And the thing is, everybody knows the names of those 8. Nobody could tell you the names of the 22 men. You know, look at government and parliament. I mean, we're struggling in the cabinet to have many women. Women in sport, very little portrayal of women, sportswomen in the media, women in the media. So we don't see very much there. We've still got issues with the gender pay gap. It is the lowest it's ever been. It's 19% now. And for full-time women under 35, there is no gender pay gap at the moment. So I think there's still quite a lot of policy that we need to be doing. You know, we do need to be getting more girls into science and technology and engineering occupations, into those well-paid occupations. We do need to carry on modernising the workplace. There has been a lot of progress on things like maternity leave and now shared parental leave. We do need a lot more transparency about pay, and we need to do more to broaden girls' aspirations. The thing I've always said from my own career is that if every woman aimed one higher than she thought she could get. You know, it's not all about getting to the top, but if everybody could get one higher, we would be getting a long way.
Thank you very much indeed, Sue. Dame Carol, your observations on that, and I know just from the conversations that we've had, and I know you've had with other women today, you look at the young women here at Newnham, and a lot of this bears on your mind very heavily.
Yes, it does, but I want to come back, if I can, to the social class trumps gender, because actually what you say and what I've seen in the work I've done recently for government, so many women who sit way below the people in this room. And I think, how do we make it better for those women? And I think we haven't really given very much consideration to that. And at the lowest end of those women, you say that it's better to be in work. But there's quite a lot of good evidence now that in fact a psychologically poor job, when you've got poor work, poor workplaces, well actually it's more damaging for your mental health than actually being in our benefit system. And that's a dreadful thing to have to say. So for me, not so much about the people here or this university, I think what you've shown is truly important, and I don't know that we have got any of the answers. When I started the job as National Director for Health and Work for the government, I asked them to organise me trips with people I thought had really boring jobs. And I went with my underground train driver, Baker Street Tube Station, 5 a.m. in the morning, up and down the Bakerloo line. And I got very bored. He didn't seem to get bored. I said, you know, could we go on the Jubilee line? And I said, you know, I normally get up early, but I did have to get up exceptionally early this morning to join you. And I said, so, you know, could you have a different shift? And, you know, if you had a good employer, you'd have 3 weeks below the ground and 1 week above. You know, one of the officers, he dropped me off and was exceedingly pleased to drop me off. And said, look, this is my train, I control it. And really, I think one of the most important things you could give to some of these women is some sense of control. We all respond so much better in life if we feel the things we do every day are somewhere within our control. This man actually had a very, very good job from his point of view. He didn't find it boring. He was in control. He said, I've got good mates, we share with each other, and I'm reasonably well paid. Go away.
So I'd just love to say thank you very much indeed to Professor Wolf for a really thought-provoking speech. It was absolutely fascinating, and I don't doubt that everyone in this room will take something away from it. To Eve Pollard, I know who's so busy and gave us her time, Women of the Year, and to Newnham today. To Sue, delightful to meet Sue and hear her expertise, and of course to Dame Carol. And I know there'll be time to talk between us all. I'm sorry if we didn't get all the questions in, but inevitably these are extraordinarily busy women, and clock watching is part of what we do. So thank you very much.